Holy shit. Y'all take a look at this video I got. I don't know if y'all remember the QAnon shaman, that's what they called him. And his real name is Jacob Chansley. Anyways, the mainstream media would have you thinking that he is a complete cuckoo. But I think he's more intelligent than that. Take a look at him. He served in the United States Navy. They kicked him out in 2007, discharged him because he refused to take the anthrax vaccine. Can you believe it? He refused the poisons. Isn't that crazy? I mean, they have been pumping freaking tons of chemicals into our military, into little newborn babies, into pregnant mothers. There's something going on with that shit. Yeah, come on, they don't love you. They don't love you. So anyways, take a look at the video. It's very interesting. See what you think about his level of intelligence. Tell me if you think he's crazy like the mainstream media and our government has reported. And the unarmed insurrection. They had officers and security waving them in, giving them tours around the building. Come on. I mean, have y'all ever heard of an unarmed insurrection? It's pretty hard to do with no arms. Pretty hard. I'm just telling y'all that the narrative that was being pushed, that's still being pushed, is totally inaccurate and disingenuous to boot. So anyways, y'all take a look. Let me know what you think. missionobvious.com, where pointing out the obvious is our modus operandi. The same with Jacob Chansley. The QAnon shaman. Take a look. All right.
Psychological operations are largely based on three factors. Number one is neuro-linguistic programming. That is the use of certain words, linguistics, to program the neurons or the pattern of neurons in the brain, in particular the subconscious portion of the brain, to affect the way that a person consciously perceives reality. Okay? Number two, you have something called critical factor bypass. Critical factor bypass is where you saturate the entirety of the environment in the media, newspapers, magazines, television shows, in the corporate world, in banking, you name it, in schools, colleges. You saturate all of them with a very specific message and you repeat it over and over and over and over again. Okay? Now, what happens then is that the subconscious mind, because it sees it everywhere, it assumes that it must be true, that this has to be real because it's everywhere in the environment. Yeah. So it programs, once again, the subconscious mind to affect the way the conscious mind perceives reality. Now, based on neuro-linguistically programming the individual and mass neuro-linguistically programming the populations through critical factor bypass, why they call it that is because your critical thinking is bypassed because it's programmed in the subconscious brain. That creates something called mass formation hypnosis. Okay, where 25 to 30% of the population believes this external stimuli, believes and is programmed by this material.
They're just sheeple.
Okay. So in order for mass formation hypnosis to occur, that 25 to 30% of the population has to gain some sort of heightened level of radicalism where they scream the loudest and then they get a hold of the levers of power, right? Now, when it comes down to stopping this process from happening, all you need is 5% or more of the population to not become hypnotized and say, no, this is ludicrous, you are nuts, we are not doing that. Now, we've seen the effects of mass formation hypnosis, critical factor bypass, and neuro-linguistic programming in Nazi Germany. We saw it with the Bolshevik Revolution in Russia and the USSR. We saw it in the Red Revolution in China and the Chinese Communist Party, okay? So we've seen the effects of this process, and it is psychological warfare, okay? Now, when it comes to Q and the Q operation, and the reason I say it's a psychological operation is this. This is how it differs. The Operation Mockingbird media, what I call the Mockingbird media, Operation Mockingbird, CIA infiltrating the media outlets, right? So the Mockingbird media uses the techniques I just laid out to program the populations so that they can use this propaganda to go to war. And then they can transfer public money into private hands. You see? So it's a whole scheme.
Were arrested and then charged. Did you tell anybody? Well, wait a second. No, I was led into the chamber by law enforcement. I didn't do anything. I wasn't armed. I don't seek insurrection. I'm totally nonviolent. Did you say that to anybody?
Absolutely. I told the FBI when they arrested me. I told my lawyer. I told the prosecutor, but it didn't fit the narrative. So this is the thing about PSYOPs. PSYOPs are about using what's called neuro-linguistic programming. That's the use of words or linguistics to create a pattern in the subconscious portion of people's brains by using trigger words and trigger images, triggering certain like instinctual responses, using words like deadly insurrection, violent insurrection, weapons of mass destruction, or deadly virus, etc. These things trigger these instinctual responses in the subconscious brain. And because the subconscious brain is most of our neurological activity, if you can hijack the pattern in somebody's subconscious brain, you can hijack their conscious perception of reality.